Welcome, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to this Zoom podcast, Zoomcast, I guess we're going to call it. I'm Adam Biggers of Saturday Tradition. You can follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Joining me today is a really great source, a friend, a special guest, all of the above, Michigan State legend, Amp Campbell. Amp, thanks a lot for joining me today. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Adam, man.
It's been a couple of years since we've been able to catch up, but we talked a lot of Michigan State football in the past. Obviously, Amp, proud to be a Spartan. We'll get into a little bit of Michigan State football at the end, but the topic of today's conversation is really, and maybe a lot of people don't follow this, is Michigan State was really the springboard for Nick Saban to achieve what he's achieved, and he's on the cusp of a 7th national championship. Amp, you were there. You were a Perlis guy. Nick comes in and takes over as head coach. Kind of tell me what's running through your mind at that point where you go from legendary George Perlis to Nick Saban, who is, just an up-and-coming coach.
It's kind of interesting, being there my freshman year with Coach Perlis was totally different when Coach Saban came in January of '95. I remember our first team meeting. He pretty much set the tone on how the program was going to be ran. And I remember they took all the TVs out the weight room. It was, very, very serious structure. The fourth quarter program was very, 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 very tough. Still the same program what he's running today. What he ran at LSU, what he ran at what he's running now at Alabama. So it was very, very tough. And I just remember him, setting the tone for us how things was going to be. It was not going to be a free fall, you know what I mean? As it was going to, like we had, I'm not going to say we had it, with Perlis, but it was chill. It wasn't as demanding as he had it. So it was really tough.
What could you describe that fourth quarter program a little bit? That sounds interesting to me. What exactly is that?
The fourth quarter program is winning condition, where the weight room you hit the weights really, really hard 3 days a week. We ran 5 days a week. Used up at, we started at 6 a.m. and we went for about an hour and some change. And Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays was your sprint days, where it was all about 80s, 120s, and you had to make them at certain times. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays were your agility days, change direction. Trying to see what else we had. You had your, like I said, you changed directions. You had your leaping and bounding. It was hard. It was really hard. It was to the point where, it questioned you on, did you really want to play football? And that's how serious it was. You had guys that didn't make it. You had guys that got injured. You had guys that it really questioned your mental toughness. And, still to this day, you see him always talking about mental toughness. You see him talking about sustaining, winning the fourth quarter. And you see those guys, on the sidelines when the fourth quarter come up, you always see them, the whole sideline, and throw those fours up, because you're going to win in the fourth quarter and dominate 60 minutes. And that's what he, you see him talk about that. And that's what it was all about.
you mentioned how he comes in and he sets the tone, and we saw once he took over from 95 to 99, Michigan State football looked like it was on the ascent. It was almost kind of like what people I guess what Mark D'Antonio did with Michigan State as far as pushing them up. Nick Saban was that, but only 12 years or 8 years earlier rather. So what was kind of the mentality of Michigan State football though, going from Perlis? You mentioned that Nick was a little bit harder nosed. I mean, did you guys see, okay, this is a coach who's not screwing around. This guy's really about winning championships. He's really about winning games.
Oh yeah, he's like I said, he set the tone from his first team meeting, and we knew him and Coach Manning. We knew that it was going to be totally different from the Coach Perlis era. You know, it wasn't you gonna go in there in the weight room and watch TV instead of live. It wasn't going to be you guys just gonna go out here and practice and just get through it. I mean, you were gonna work, and you work for those 2.5 to 3 hours at practice. It was a structured, detail-oriented program, the way he ran it. And you knew where you had to be, when you had to be, what you had to do, when you had to do it. And he continued to install the mental toughness into you. And it's so interesting because it carries over into life now to this day. The things that was installed in you as a player there when he was the head football coach. So, and he's still doing the same thing now to this day to the kids that he's coaching now.
He has a background early in his coaching career as a defensive coordinator, specifically a defensive back coordinator, and he was actually a DB, DC under Perlis, and I think it was like 83 to 87 or something. It was right. I think he ended right with that Rose Bowl team. How beneficial was it to have Nick as a coach? Just him coming in as a head coach with that defensive background, with that defensive back background. Obviously, it helps a guy like you in that position, your defensive back yourself. How much did that help you?
Oh, it was a blessing because I was a player that I felt like I was a good football player, and being able to learn the techniques and fundamentals that he installed, him and Coach D'Antonio, into me, kind of took that to the next level. So a guy that's you go from being a good football player to being I'm not going to say great, but a really good football player. That takes it to the next level because he knew those guys he knew what he was talking about. Like I say, playing with the great technique, great fundamentals is one of the things that he harped on big time as a player. But also, one of the things I took from him is the knowledge that he knows about that position. Coach is one of the smartest guys I've ever been around, preparation-wise, knowing ins and out of the game. He prepares you for the unexpected and very, very, very intelligent. And I don't think enough people really talk about that. Spends a lot of time watching a lot of film, and it goes to show you as it shows, what I mean? It shows on Saturdays, why he's so successful because the hours that he put in on watching his opponent, it shows. And when you go out there and you dominate teams and in all three phases, regardless of, you have 5-star recruits and things like that. But, if you go back and look at last week's game, just penalty wise, it wasn't a lot. A well-disciplined coach football team, and those are the things that he harps on, and it shows.
And that kind of leads me right into my next question, because we talk about his knowledge and specifically defensively. I mean, is it a coincidence once he took over at Michigan State as the head coach in '95, we start seeing some Spartans on the defensive side of the ball uh, in the NFL being drafted? I mean, that was happening under Perlis, of course, but I feel like maybe there was a little bit of an influx under Nick. And then is it a coincidence that in the early 2000s we see all these LSU defensive players in the league, and then Nick goes to Alabama, and we know about the Alabama secondary in particular. I mean, how does that all tie back to Michigan State? That's not a coincidence. That seems to be like his trademark.
It is. It really is, because I sit back and think about my just my last year there. I think if I don't get hurt, I get drafted. You look at Eric Morris. He goes, I think, in the 4th round. Ronaldo Hill gets drafted, who I play with. He goes, I think, he gets drafted in the NFL. Ray Hill, God bless him, who passed away, he goes to the New England Patriots. Thomas Wright, goes to the Tennessee Titans. I can go on and on. There's so many guys that played in the secondary, but also played defensively for him, that goes and gets drafted and play in the NFL. Why? It's because the things that the system that you play in, with him being a defensive coordinator with Bill Belichick and him being in the NFL for so long, installing the techniques and fundamentals that you will use at the next level is pretty much preparing you for that. And the things that he tells you, if you listen and you take it, and process it, it's going to help you down the road. And, for me, even now as a coach, some of the things I still use to help myself install on my kids today, because the things that I learned, from him, especially after sitting out a whole year and coming back and becoming a first-team All Big Ten corner and becoming an All-American my last year after sitting out a whole year, it speaks volume. That the system and also the technique and fundamentals that they preach on every single day, it works.
How much of an impact, because you speak highly of Saban, obviously, how much of an impact has he had just on you overall coaching career? Right now you're defensive back coach at Alabama State University. Along your stops, along your coaching path, how much Saban is in you?
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot, because I feel like I truly, truly believe in everything that he did for our program when I was there at Michigan State as a player, with him coaching, especially being in our secondary room a lot with Coach D'Antonio and the guys with us, and stepping up, asking, answering questions, and asking us if we had any questions on anything. So the things that they taught me has really helped me as a coach. Also with me getting the opportunity to go up there and watch practice in Tuscaloosa, also go up there during the summer times and work the camps, and still learn new things that he's teaching teaching those guys. Some of it's, a little bit the same, but some of it's changed. But for me, I think it's going to carry over for me for a long time, because if you believe in something, um, and it's working, like I said, it's fourth quarter program, 20 years, over 20 years, and you can see the impact that it has had on his programs everywhere he's been.
How much, how much, if any, do you think? And I'm rewinding back to '99. Um, before Bobby took over. But how much of Nick Saban's head coaching tenure at Michigan State do you think influenced the university and athletic department as far as, okay, this is what kind of guy we want in the future? Am I kind of am I just kind of thinking that, or is there maybe something to that? Do you think maybe Nick Saban had some sort of an impact on, okay, what type of coach, we see where Nick can do and where the possibilities could take us? We want a guy like that. Is there anything to that?
I think so. I think so. I think it was one of the huge impacts why um, Coach D'Antonio became the head coach there. Um, being up under uh, Coach Saban, the success we had while he was the head coach there, uh, the the kids that he brought in kind of resembled a little bit of what Coach D had brought in. So I think, then also now, even with uh, Coach Tucker, you know, who was on Coach D'Antonio's staff when he was at Ohio State. Um, Also, Coach Tucker was a grad assistant at LSU for Coach Saban. So, he knows um, the philosophy. He knows um, the ins and out of what we did at Michigan State, also what he did at LSU, but also too he also knows what Coach D'Antonio did as well. So you take those things, you mend them together, and you kind of you know stir that thing up, and you gonna get you should. I'm hoping you get the same results, but I think that just the things that the people that he's been around, it's gonna help.
Let's rewind 20 to 25 years ago, and if someone told you, uh, here's a future prediction, this Nick Saban guy over here is going to be on the doorstep of a seventh national championship, what would you say to that?
Honestly, I would have said I believed it. I believed it. The reason why, because just knowing his work ethic, knowing how hard he grinds, um, and I remember when I was down in New Orleans when I signed the free agent deal with the Saints, and me and Robert Newkirk drove from New Orleans down to Baton Rouge to hang out with him for the weekend, and it was just, and this is in the summer, and he still is trying to find a way how to win. Um, and it's like he's always a step ahead of the game. And I think that, just the work that he puts in uh, is unbelievable. And it's kind of interesting. I tell, I always tell people this, and um, as a player, um, you know, he has such a huge impact on me. It's like, man, I would have ran through a brick wall for him. And you can see that now still with his players. We had a very, very special, relationship. And I think that, and he gets gets his players to buy in, and they love him. And I think that still to this day, like I said, when I go and watch practice, still joking a little bit with the player, but when it's time to get serious, he demands that respect, but also too demands that you go out there and give 110%.
Amp, is there a maybe like excuse me, one particular one-on-one interaction? You mentioned that you and Nick have a pretty good relationship. Is there one interaction that just kind of stands out that solidified that you knew that you're going to be, not just a guy who played for him, but somebody down the road you could go to for advice. You could go check out practices. You can hang out with them on the weekend. I mean, was there one event that kind of solidified that relationship?
I think it. If I had to look back on it, the one I would say was probably his last team meeting. When he came and told the team that he was leaving to go to LSU. And, it's kind of interesting when we had that team meeting at 6:00 in the morning, and he told us that he was leaving to go to LSU, which I had already knew before that because I was getting phone calls from the media down in Baton Rouge about him, that Miss Saban was there looking at homes. And I remember after that team meeting, like it was yesterday, after the team meeting, for some reason he called me in his office out of like all the players, and we sat and talked. And I remember, I had one more game left to play there. That was a bowl game. And I'm crying like my mom and dad was getting a divorce, and I'm sitting there thinking about, me and him having a conversation, and just the impact that he had on my life. The time he took over there in '95, was it was a blessing. And he sat there. We talked and talked and talked, and I just remember him telling me if there's anything he ever can do for me, let him know. And I just, and after that, we always talk, and it's still for a couple of years after that, explaining to me why he left. And, it was no need to continue to keep explaining to me why he did what he did. It's the best situation for him and his family. But that was one moment that, that I'll never forget, where we had a real heart-to-heart, and it really meant something to me.
And honestly, those are the type of stories I feel like that just give so much more background to a guy. A lot of people just know Nick Saban as this larger than life college football coach, hard-nosed kind of guy. You don't really hear a ton of, especially like these intimate details like you're sharing. So I really do appreciate that. I think that gives people a bigger understanding of not only, Nick Saban, but I mean what good coaching is in general. And you're obviously trying to carry on that as well at Alabama State. Amp, I won't keep you too much longer. Just a couple more questions for you, though. I mean, we've covered a lot as far as the springboard, Michigan State serving as a springboard for Nick Saban. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. I mean, if there's one thing, I mean, why you mentioned attention to detail. I mean, I'm trying to find, is there another way you can describe is how he remains so dominant? I mean, I saw a stat I was watching the Alabama Notre Dame game. Alabama's been ranked number one for at least every number one in the nation for at least a week ever since Saban's been there. I mean, how does he just continuously pump out the team to beat every year?
I think one of the big things is for for starters, like I said, his team's going to be in shape, well conditioned. They're going to be physical. You're going to be prepared the best way possible for your opponent when you go out there. And the reason why, what I mean by that is you're going to know your opponent in and out, the weakness, their strengths, uh, the every player that touched that field that play, you're going to know who can hurt you, who can't, what they can do, what they can't do. And what I mean by that is, prime example, on Friday nights, I think the national championship game is on a Monday. So I guarantee you on Sunday, when they're in the hotel meeting, having a meeting offensively on one side, defenses on the other side. And I'm just using giving you an example. Dylan Moses, the middle linebacker, he's going to know everything about. He might be assigned to get up and talk about the quarterback, Justin Fields. That might be his assignment to get up and give details to speak on what Justin Fields' strengths, weakness, the whole nine, what he likes to do, what he doesn't like to do, where he likes to scramble, where he don't like to scramble. Patrick Surtain is going to get up. I'm just giving you examples. That's what we used to do. He's going to get up and talk about Olay, the receiver, how he lines up. Is there anything he gives away when his run or when his pass? Does his splits give away anything that tells you what type of route he's going to run? So you sit there and you listen to guys that study film all week, and you get the opportunity to listen the time that they put in, and you sit there and say, wow, all right, this guy really here knows his opponent. But those are the things that he just harps on. You know, those are the little things that, you know, people outside don't get an opportunity to see that. And those are some of the things that, you know, that really, 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 really sticks out, you know, on your football team. And, you know, you do that offensively and defensively. And so you kind of, you know, the D-line's going to talk about the O-line, you know, certain keys that they might notice. So it's so many things that they're going to hit on that's going to kind of, I'm not going to say give them an edge, but it makes you a better football team. Also, I think that the most important thing is with guys, you know, I think what that he hits on is 60 minutes. Like I said, you know, big on this, really, really big on this. 60 minutes of playing 60 minutes in the game and eliminating as many mistakes as possible. Concentration, no missed tackles, big plays, eliminate big plays, and turnovers. And those are the things that some of the things that he harps on.
Well, Amp, I really appreciate your time. And for those who don't know, Amp's been a great source of information, been a friend for years. One of my favorite all-time players at Michigan State. So I got to fan out a little bit on this interview and check out that return against Oregon. If you haven't seen it, that's one of the most legendary plays I think in Michigan State football, at least during my lifetime. So it wouldn't be an interview with Amp if I didn't ask him at least one question about Michigan State football. And you hit on something earlier, I think, too, that if you're not really familiar with coaches and where they come from, you mentioned Mel Tucker's connection to Nick Saban. Just your impressions overall of Mel's first year. Obviously, some rough spots and transition, kind of trying to figure out what's going to be the situation with quarterback. But he goes and does what many thought, including myself, was going to be the impossible, and he beat Michigan on his first try. Just your overall thoughts on Mel Tucker's first year in East Lansing.
It was a little rough, but I see that. I think it's going to get better. I think he's going to get the kids in there that he needs and wants to. That's going to fit his system, the program that he wants to run. I think it can only go up from here. I think the energy that Mel's going to bring to the program is going to be phenomenal. I think the kids also, you want to get kids in there that's going to buy in, and I think that I honestly think he's going to do a great job there. I see promising spots. That's on that football team that's going to help them be successful. But like you said, I think the quarterback situation is going to be pretty big, which is going to be huge. The O-line and the defense, from the secondary to the linebackers, also the guys up front. You got to be able to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. But I think, the receivers look pretty doggone good this past season. Finding a tailback, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure they probably got one that's going to be, that's going to be pretty good. But I think Mel's going to do a good job. I feel like he's, not playing with, his players. He was left with, some of Coach D's on, and then you got guys that's opting out, because of the COVID situation, but also too you got guys that enter the transfer portal. So he's going to replace those guys with the kids that he needs, and I can only see things going up from here.
Well, Amp, I really appreciate your time. And once again, Amp Campbell, Michigan State legend. He's got, if you haven't, I've written about his story before. If you haven't heard about it, I mean, just went from almost career-ending neck injury to All-American status. Huge play against Oregon, the team that he was injured against the 2 years prior. Had a stint with the Saints. Successful coaching career right now, so I want to wish you the best of luck at Alabama State, and Happy New Year. Hope you enjoyed your holiday season as well, and what's been the norm right now is everybody stay safe, wear masks, all of that stuff. So Amp, I really appreciate your time, you taking out your time during this holiday season to sit down with me and talk football. I always enjoy it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man, and happy holidays to you and your family, man. God bless.
Thank you, Amp.
All right. Take care.
You too.